Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Shinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vidhi Anta Stohi Apadrani Vidu Noti Suritsatam Nasta Prayashu Apatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtige. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, Verse 5. Tavaivam Rama Manasya Kama Kashmala Chetasaha Shanardam Iva Rajendra Yati Krantam Navam Vayaha. Synonyms: Taya, with her, Avam, in this way, Ramamanasya, enjoying, Kama, full of lust, Kashmala, sinful, Chetasaha, his heart, Kshana Ardam, in half a moment, Eva, like, Raja Indra, O king, Yati Krantam, expired, Navam, new, Vayaha, life. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My dear King Parchini Barishat, in this way, King Puranjana, with his heart full of lust and sinful reactions, began to enjoy sex with his wife, and in this way his new life and youth expired in half a moment. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Govindadas Thakur has sung, Edana Yavana Putra Parijana Iti Ki It Achi Paratitire Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala Bhajaham Haripada Nitiri. In this verse, Srila Govindadas actually says that there is no bliss in the enjoyment of youthful life. In youth, a person becomes very lusty to enjoy all kinds of sense objects. The sense objects are form, taste, smell, touch, and sound. The modern scientific method or advancement of scientific civilization encourages the enjoyment of these five senses. The younger generation is very pleased to see a beautiful form, to hear radio messages of material news and sense gratifactory songs, to smell nice scents and nice flowers, and to touch the soft body or breasts of a young woman, and gradually touch the sex organs. All this is also very pleasing to the animals. Therefore, in human society, there are restrictions in enjoyment of the five sense objects. If one does not follow, he becomes exactly like an animal. Thus, in this verse, it is specifically stated, Kama Kashmala Chetasaha. The consciousness of King Puranjana was polluted by lusty desires and sinful activities. In the previous verse, it is stated that Puranjana, although advanced in consciousness, lay down on a very soft bed with his wife. This indicates that he indulged too much in sex. The words Navam Vayaha are also significant in this verse. They indicate the period of youth from the age 16 to 30. These 13 or 15 years of life are years in which one can very strongly enjoy the senses. When one comes to this age, he thinks that life will go on and that he will simply continue enjoying the senses. But time and tide wait no man. The span of youth expires quickly. One who wastes his life simply by committing sinful activities in youth immediately becomes disappointed and disillusioned when the brief period of youth is over. The material enjoyments of youth are especially pleasing to a person who has no spiritual training. If one is trained only according to the bodily conception of life, he simply leads a disappointed life because bodily sense enjoyment finishes within 40 years or so. After 40 years, one simply leads a disillusioned life because he has no spiritual knowledge. For such a person, the expiration of youth occurs in half a moment. Thus King Puranjana's pleasure, which he took in lying down with his wife, expired very quickly. Kama Kashmala Saha also indicates that unrestricted sense enjoyment is not allowed in the human form alive by the laws of nature. If one enjoys his senses unrestrictedly, he leads a sinful life. The animals do not violate the laws of nature. For example, the sex impulse in animals is very strong during certain months of the year. The lion is very powerful. He is a flesh eater and is very strong, but he enjoys sex only once a year. Similarly, according to religious injunctions, a man is restricted to enjoying sex only once a month, after the menstrual period of the wife, and if the wife is pregnant, he is not allowed sex life at all. That is the law for human beings. A man is allowed to keep more than one wife because he cannot enjoy sex when the wife is pregnant. If he wants to enjoy sex at such a time, he may go to another wife who is not pregnant. These are laws mentioned in the Manu Samhita and other scriptures. These laws and scriptures are meant for human beings. As such, if one violates these laws, he becomes sinful. The conclusion is that unrestricted sense enjoyment means sinful activities. Illicit sex is sex that violates the laws given in the scriptures. When one violates the laws of the scriptures or the Vedas, he commits sinful activities. One who is engaged in sinful activities cannot change his consciousness. Our real function is to change our consciousness from Kashmala, sinful consciousness, to Krishna, the Supreme Pure. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. Krishna is the Supreme Pure, and if we change our consciousness from material enjoyment to Krishna, we become purified. This is the process recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the process of Chaitodarpana Marjanam, cleansing the mirror of the heart. End of purport. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shinyavari Paschata Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'd like to seek blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to read Srimad Bhagavatam and purify myself. Please forgive me for any shortcomings. So I've taken some notes from senior Vaishnavas and from Srila Prabhupada on this verse, text 5. We're reading chapter 27 of Canto 4. So, in this verse, we hear about illicit sex being a major problem in the elevation of one's spiritual advancement. And so, for everyday living, the regulative principles are the moral principles that we live by. There's 4 principles of religion, and no illicit sex is followed to uphold cleanliness. Illicit sex is sex that violates the laws given in the scriptures. It is a sinful activity, and therefore cleanliness is destroyed by illicit sex. This is sex outside of marriage, or any sex for any purpose other than procreation. Sex for pleasure compels one to identify with the body and prevents one from understanding Krishna consciousness. The scriptures teach that sex is the most powerful force binding us to the material world. Anyone serious about advancing in Krishna consciousness should therefore abstain from or regulate sexual activity according to the scriptures. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that sexual union for conceiving a child to be raised in God consciousness is an act of devotion to Him. If one's heart and mind is materially contaminated due to his engagement in sinful activities, he cannot even come close to touching Krishna, who is the supreme pure. In that way, he misses the goal of life. To transform our consciousness from being full of lusty desires and sinful reactions, we need to follow the 4 regulative principles and become purified through the process of bhakti yoga to Krishna. By following these 4 regulative principles, we're not repressing ourselves, but we're actually elevating ourselves to a superior platform. By chanting Hare Krishna, one gets a higher taste, and then they can leave the material desires behind according to the level of their realization. In Bhagavad Gita 264, Krishna does confirm that but a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Our real function is to change our consciousness from sinful to pure, from material enjoyment to Krishna consciousness. It is essentially describing the transition from anartha nivritti to the higher stages of bhakti. Bhajana Kriya, we take up the devotional practice, and anartha nivritti, the unwanted habits, sins, and misconceptions are cleansed from the heart by engaging in one, multiple, or all of the 9 processes of bhakti without offense. There's then from nishta to ruchi to ashakti to the stage of bhava to prema. As the heart becomes purified, consciousness naturally turns to Krishna. There is a causeless knowledge and detachment, and bliss increases without limit as one progresses in the stages of bhakti. And King Puranjana here was able to begin his bhajana kriya due to his great fortune of having the saintly association of the pure devotee Narada Muni. It is urgent that we take shelter of Krishna before the opportunity of youth and life are lost. We must recognize the futility and uselessness of sense enjoyment and how quickly youth disappears. Youth in worldly pleasures end in emptiness, whereas when one finds Krishna, all of his sufferings are destroyed and he experiences ever-increasing joy. A life of devotional service brings real fulfillment beyond time and tide. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is confirmed where it's stated, thus the self-controlled yogi constantly engaged in yoga practice becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. All of us are seeking happiness in some form or the other. There is some misconception that people have where they think, I will enjoy now and do spiritual life when I'm old. Real life is spiritual life, and until and unless we are living a Krishna-centered life, we are wasting our lifespan on fleeting and disappointing engagements. Why delay turning to Krishna when we have been fortunate enough to have this human form of life? Let us take full advantage of what Srila Prabhupada and our previous acharyas have left us with and follow in their footsteps. As we stick to the process, gradually our heart will become cleansed and we will rediscover eternal bliss in our relationship with Krishna. So this verse describes how becoming absorbed in material enjoyment, one is passing their life without even noticing it, and that the enjoyment becomes very difficult to stop, and consequently throughout our life we will continue attempting that enjoyment even though as we age it becomes more and more difficult due to the senses not being as vital. So one without knowledge becomes increasingly more frustrated as he increases in age. And unlike the animal, the human being gets sinful reactions for all of his activities. If one prefers to become an animal, the Lord can gift him that birth where he can enjoy like an animal and not have any karma from it. What is the best thing a human being can do? And what is the real purpose of life? The Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra are there to guide us on that. They encourage that the human being is to utilize his capacity as a human being and not live an animal life. If the jiva accepts these authorities, then he doesn't need to speculate any longer. He can follow the bona fide authority. The most complete and most reasonable scriptures are the Vedic literatures because one, they have all conceptions of God that are available in all religions. Two, Vedic literatures have more explanations for why we suffer in this material world. And three, they give the law of karma and they explain the difference between the body and soul. They explain what happens when we die, etc. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are propensities of both human beings and animals, and human beings have the ability to think in a more advanced way than animals do. The human being has the capacity to end his material life and stop the process of birth in this material world, but unfortunately most human beings don't take advantage of their human life, and to do that they misuse their higher thinking capacity by using it only to create more scientific inventions, etc., with the neglect of the prime capacity of human life, ending material life by going beyond the material world. To advance in spiritual life, one must control the mind and the senses. Of the senses, the tongue is the most powerful, and if one can control the tongue, he can also control the belly, the genitals, and the mind. An uncontrolled mind and senses lead to degradation. We can avoid falling into sinful activity and sense enjoyment by becoming a Goswami. How can one become a Goswami? By chanting the holy name without offense and by eating Krishna Prasad only, and in this way one conquers the tongue. So the core message in this verse is that human life is a rare opportunity to advance spiritually, and the purpose of life is not material enjoyment, but realization of Krishna through bhakti yoga. Material pleasures, sense gratifications, and sinful activities tie the soul to repeated birth and death. A human being's higher intelligence and capacity distinguish them from the animals and provide them the potential to attain the highest goal, Krishna Prema, which is love of God. And so practically we can engage in bhajana kriya or devotional service, follow the four regulative principles to cleanse the heart, use our human intelligence to rise above sinful and material contamination, and take shelter of Krishna without delay, using the association of pure devotees and the guidance of scriptures. Human life is meant to purify the heart, transcend material desires, and attain the highest goal, eternal love of Krishna through devotion, not merely liberation or worldly enjoyment.